Gail, how would you explain, define your profession right now?
I'm a counselor in the clinical space. I'm a chaplain. I'm an author, and I'm an international speaker on women's issues.
Okay. Awesome. Okay, awesome.
I have nothing to do with music.
Wait a minute.
Whoa, what?
Well, you did. No, but you know, I'm just going if you just go with the flow, I'm going to ask questions and just get your feedback on things, and we're just going to keep it.
I'm just teasing you, Bill.
Oh, okay.
Classic.
Okay. I'm like, shoot.
What's up? Bill McCleskey in the building with
My boy.
he said my boy.
Just be smooth. Can't stop till I won't stop till I can't stop till I won't stop till I can't stop till I won't stop till I ain't no G code. Just be smooth.
Welcome to Tech Don't Sleep podcast. It's your boy Bill McCleskey in the building with my co-host. He decided to join me this time, y'all.
Yes.
Eddie Jones.
What's going on?
In the building, and we have a super special guest all the way, and yes, I say all the way, y'all, from South Africa. That's right. I'm talking about the country, in the continent of Africa, Mrs. Gail Masondo. And
yes.
welcome.
Thank you, Bill.
Yes.
Thank you, Eddie. Thank you for inviting me, and I look forward to this conversation.
Yes, it's gonna be fun. It's gonna be fun. And folks, who are our listeners, I'm gonna call you Aunt Gail because that's what Eddie calls you, and that's all I knew you as before. I thought your first name was Aunt, but our listeners are primarily entrepreneurs or business owners, and what we always try to talk about is different subject matters and how technology has influenced different industries or verticals. Mm-hmm. So we'll jump into that because your career has been an adventure, right? And you've worked in the music industry, and you're in counseling, you're a motivational speaker, and you're doing a lot of things internationally. So we're going to talk about you and your career and your journey, but we're also going to talk about how technology may have influenced some of that as well, so that we can have some takeaways or insights for our listeners.
Absolutely.
But before we jump into that, we actually want to play a quick game. And we got this game called I Got 5 on It, okay? I got 5 on it.
I got five on it.
You remember that song?
No.
Who sang that song, man? Who was that?
The Loonies.
The Loonies?
It's a rap song.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I wouldn't know it. I wouldn't know it.
I got 5 on it. You never heard that? Okay. All right. Well, it's just the name. But anyway, the reason we call the game I Got 5 on It is because you have 5 seconds to answer each question, okay? So most of the questions are just an option question, like this or that. So you just give me your answer when I call out the options for you, okay? So here we go.
And the prize? And what's the prize, please?
Eddie has the prize. Your nephew.
We'll talk offline, and I'll let you know the details.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
But there's no wrong answers, okay? So don't worry about it. All right. Number 1, mac and cheese or lasagna?
Mac and cheese.
Mm-hmm. All right. What song best describes your life?
Unforgettable.
Hey, I like it. Natalie Cole, right? Oh, that's Nat King Cole. Being a manager in the music industry or an inspirational speaker, which do you prefer?
Inspirational speaker.
All right. Yolanda Adams or CeCe Winans?
Ooh. CeCe Winans.
Ooh, all right. In person or Zoom?
In person. In person.
Instagram or Facebook?
I don't have either account. So.
Oh, really? Are you on LinkedIn?
I'm not. My husband has put me on everything, but I don't subscribe to any of it.
Gotcha.
I'm on WhatsApp. I'm on WhatsApp.
Okay, what's that? All right, yeah, that's a big international app. Okay, laptop or tablet?
Laptop.
Okay. Independent label or major label?
I'm sorry, I was talking. What did you say?
Independent label or major label?
Oh, independent.
Yeah. If money was no object, what would be the very first thing you do?
The very first thing I would do is, I think I would just wow, if money wasn't the object. Hike, walk.
Yeah. Are you a hiker?
Not in the sense of hiker.
Yeah.
But I like to walk, and
yeah.
We live near the beach. We're like 2 minutes from the beach, so
cool.
That's kind of cool.
All right, here's the next one. United States or South Africa? That's
like apples and oranges, but I'm here. South Africa on purpose, for purpose. So South Africa.
Gotcha. Let's see. If you had to delete all but 3 apps from your smartphone, which ones would you keep?
WhatsApp.
That's one. That's the only one you would keep?
Google.
Okay.
And I'm so low maintenance. I guess it would be my camera.
Yeah, I like it. All right, 8-track or MP3?
You like these questions?
Your nephew came up with these questions.
For you guys, and for my godson, I'd say an MP3.
I love 8-track though.
Oh yeah.
Well, but where can you find them? Do you have
on Amazon?
My mom might still have some of my dad's old.
All right, we getting to the end here. Okay, so home cooked meal or restaurant?
Home cooked.
Yeah. If you could live anywhere in the world for a year, where would it be?
Japan. We travel to Japan a lot. I like Japan.
Nice. Digital or analog?
Analog. I like the sound of analog.
Yeah. Who do you admire most?
Marian Wright Edelman. She is the founder of the Children's Defense Fund.
Are you a listener or a talker?
It depends. The kind of work I do, I have to listen.
Yeah, nice. Handles Messiah or Handles Messiah Soulful Celebration?
Soulful Celebration.
Y'all gonna have to clue me in on that one. Okay, introvert or extrovert?
More introverted.
All right, and here's the last one. This is gonna be, I think I know the answer to this. Take 6 or commissioned? She's thinking about it, ain't she?
Well, they were around at this very same time. They broke into the Christian music world at the same time. I respect both groups. So, but because you all were waiting for me to say Take 6, I'll say Take 6.
I mean, we were waiting for you to say Take 6 because you were you that first manager?
Professional manager, yes.
Okay. First professional manager. Yeah, cool. So we had, as Eddie mentioned, I think before we started, we had Cedric Denner on, and we talked a lot about what do we call them? The glory years or the early days and Take 6 and things like that. But it was a pretty cool conversation. And that video will probably drop before this one, right? So we're
gonna have Cedric's and
Okay, cool. No, that'd be cool. Yeah. So I really want to jump into, we have a quick article too, but I just want to talk about everything you do as well. You are a chaplain, an author, an international speaker, a counselor, and a life counselor and a recovery coach.
Life in recovery. Yeah.
Like in recovery coach. Okay. Okay. Gotcha. So I really want to back up though to when you how did you connect with the Grammy Award winning group that we know of today, Take Six? When they first, you said you were their first professional manager. So what does that really mean? Does that mean when they got a record deal with Warner Brothers, you became their manager, or how did that start?
Well, what happens, in Black America, particularly when I was growing up, I didn't know that there was any such thing as a music business of the music. All we saw were the performances, or we bought the albums. So I was actually, when I was living in Nashville, I was involved with the Nashville Urban League on Jefferson Street, right down the road from Fisk University. And I used to do the Urban League's gala event every year. Here's someone that you all might really be interested in talking to is Thomas Kane. And Thomas Kane was head of urban music performance rights for BMI, Broadcast Music Incorporated. And he was one of the first Black execs on Music Row, actually, before I came. And we would have Thomas perform at the Urban League. And I also did Summer Lights. I don't know if you all still have Summer Lights in Nashville, but it was a
Summer Lights, though.
Citywide festival. And I was in charge of the gospel music stages at that time. And so Thomas and I did a lot of work back and forth. It wasn't, so much of a professional gig at that time. He had a band. And it was really one of the most proficient jingle writers in Nashville. A lot of people don't know that, but he was an amazing artist, amazing executive, music executive. And you say, what does that have to do with Take Six? Everything. Because there was a demo tape that was going around. And in our conversation, it was like, we should give Mark Kibble came to see me at my home. I knew some of the members of Take Six when they were much, much younger, just because of our church affiliation. I'm from New York, and so I knew Mark and I knew Claude before I knew any of the other members. And we have a church university in Huntsville, Alabama, where the boys, because they're old now, to university. And before they would Take Six, they were known as Alliance. And so as they would tour Huntsville, Alabama, they had, people who would say they were managing, meaning booking their dates and things like that. So after listening to their demo, it was kind of like, let's do a showcase. I wasn't as familiar with what a showcase meant quite like Thomas. Thomas knew. He was part of the music industry here in Nashville. So we put a showcase together. We were kind of tunnel vision. We only invited the Christian music publishers, record companies, managers, booking agents. That's what we did because Take Six was only Alliance at that time was only doing Christian music. So we thought that that's what we needed to do. And so we sent out 200 invitations. I don't know if Koinonia is still standing, but it was a Christian bookstore right there on Music Row, Old Music Row. And that's where Amy Grant and Michael W. Smith got their start. Koinonia used to be the place to be on a Saturday evening. It is where the Christian artists would come and showcase their music, particularly if they were songwriters. That's where, before they put a song on an album, they would test it to see if how the crowd, people need to do more of that. But like, I suppose because everything is so electronic now, but it was to get that interaction, to be able to see, is this a song that's going to hit? Is this a song that people are going to enjoy? Yeah. So we decided to do the Take 6 Alliances Showcase at that bookstore. It had a reputation, it had credibility, but we sent out 200 invitations and only 10 people showed up.
So I want to jump in real quick on that, because that's just so interesting. You said that you sent out 200 invitations. So I remember when I worked on Music Row, Taylor Swift, she came out with the Red Album, and her publicist or her team, they went all up and down Music Row and they passed out vinyl of her record to every business, you know, to get everybody excited about the project. When it came to you guys, or you sending out the 200 invitations, was it like a door-to-door? Because, you know, things have changed now because we can just, you know.
We did what was available at the time, Eddie. You know, we did have a demo, but it was it was on a cassette tape. We did send that out. We didn't have email. We didn't have the fax machine. We didn't have any of that. So yeah, we had to do some physical handing out. But I think the short-sightedness of the Christian world at that time is what they heard on what they heard on the cassette was just so different. It was a cappella. It was jazz stylings to gospel lyrics. No one had ever heard of that. On Music Row. Now in Black America, we're kind of used to the Five Brown Boys, and but Music Row, there was no Black music to that extent. So 10 people showed up, but bless God that out of those 10 was Jim Ed Norman of Warner Brothers. He was given a tape, because a lot of times you have to look at providence. It's not always about talent. It's about people knowing people. Relationships are so important in any business, but particularly in the entertainment business. It is based upon relationships. And so a friend, Mac McNamally, was given a tape by Doug Smith, who Brian McKnight, along with Alliance, used to use his studio. And he gave the tape to Mac McNamally of Alliance and said, you really gonna like this. Mac McNamally knew Jim Ed was a part of the Eagles band, had a real love for vocal music, and gave him the tape. But it wasn't even a whole tape. It was just a small distorted clip. But Jim Ed would play it almost, they said, every day. And he got word that there was a showcase being held down the street. He could walk where Warner Brothers, the old Warner Brothers building, he could walk 4 or 5 blocks to Cornelia, showed up. I didn't know who he was. Thomas knew who he was, but there wasn't like, hey, was it? I just wondered, in my limited experience, I thought record execs wore suits. He didn't come in a suit. He came in jeans and a shirt, and he sat down in the back. And am I answering your question, Bill? Because I think
I'm just soaking this up. No, you're answering the question. I think that there's a couple of things I want to pull out of there too. Number one, you just said something that relationships are important in business, but especially in the music business. And that's funny to me because I tell people relationships are so important in the technology business, and it's like we're speaking that same language, but it just kind of gives me confirmation for entrepreneurs or people trying to build something that, hey, we need to develop, create, and nurture these valuable relationships no matter what. I mean, technology can't substitute for it. Just like you said, you prefer in person than some virtual experience, right? And
and I think it's really important for your generation in particular. Are you all are the millennials? Are you the millennials?
It is. I'm Z.
Yeah. I'm a millennial.
No,
I just think it's just so important that as technology is taking us to many different places I never thought I would be alive to see. I just think it's so important to remember. You know, I have relationships from the business that are 30 years old that continue to be nurtured. I just heard from Jim Ed last week, you know, and there are other relationships that I have with members of Take Six and people at Warner Brothers who were part of Warner Brothers Burbank that we had to work with have become friends.
Yeah.
So there's nothing like being or feeling safe with people.
Yeah.
And there were a lot of people who came to, I was a novice in the business. I was always putting on plays, particularly in high school. So producing was not foreign to me in that regard. But coming to the business of music is so intricate and so important. And the part about it is that you need a team. So after the showcase, Jim Ed did call me. In fact, he gave me a card. I didn't know who he was, and I put the card in my pocket. I didn't think he was, you know, I just thought he was somebody that came off the street. Till I got home and I read his card, and I still couldn't place, you know, I just saw the card and said, I wonder who Jim Ed is, president of Warner Brothers, but president of Warner Brothers, the country division, we can't do anything with him. So, you know, put the card down, but Providence, God would have it that he called and said, I want to have a meeting. And I didn't know what to do. So I called Thomas and I said, I think you need to take this meeting because I don't know anything about what he's going to expect. And Thomas said, no, you can handle the meeting. And a deal was offered on the spot.
Wow.
So it was about coming back and saying, what does this mean?
Yeah. So when he offered a deal on the spot, like how was it in black and white on paper, or was it like a verbal deal? Say, hey, here's what I want to do, or
it was verbal in the sense of if you want a deal, you got a deal.
Okay.
So it was let's go and get some other people who know what he's talking about.
Sure.
And it was at that time the guy said, will you hang around, or will you stay, or will you? And I was like, you know, I don't know what this means. I have no idea what signing and. But again, everything was kind of lined up, meaning God had people in place. And I have to tell you that my career of the 5-6 years I managed the guys, I had such an influx of people willing to help. There were times it was very uncomfortable being the first female or being the first Black female here in Nashville in particular. And sometimes when I would have to go to LA as well. But, you know, we got in a room once the guys decided they wanted to sign this deal. They got an apartment. We sat on the floor one day and did a 5-year plan of some of the things we would like to see happen with this deal, people we would like to perform with. And that 5-year plan was done in 1 year.
Oh, wow.
Everything. They were the first gospel artists to be nominated for a Grammy in the new artist division. There was no other gospel artist who had ever been in that category before. That was the year we did Radio City Hall with Stevie Wonder. That was the year they did Back on the Block with Quincy Jones. That was the year that we did Billy Graham in Central Park. So, and Sesame Street, because that was the thing I wanted to do.
Sesame Street.
And I think the second year we did Carnegie Hall for Special Olympics Africa. I believe that's why I live in Africa now, is because we planted seed then. But the Special Olympians, there had been no Olympians that were involved in the Olympic Games, Special Olympic Games from Africa. And so when the Shriver family, as in Bob Shriver, Bobby Shriver, said, what would you like to do? I said, we would like to bring some Olympians from Africa. And so we did a Take Six and Friends at Carnegie Hall. And on that bill was Whitney Houston, BB and CC, Stevie. It was, a lot of people. My favorite was James Taylor. And it was a lot of folk. Boys Choir of Harlem. And it was an amazing, and it was, I think probably for me, just to see my name underneath, produced by Gail Hamilton.
Well, you got all your training when you were doing Summer Lights and the Urban League event. I mean, that was your training, right?
I suppose to a large degree, being able to have a creative mindset probably started in high school. And, I'm a behind the scenes girl. I love behind the scenes. I love to see things become what the idea that you have in mind. So it was a whirlwind. Gosh, it was on the job training. We met some incredible people, incredible producers, but it was hectic. It was sometimes overwhelming. I had a family at that time. So the demands were, this is an interesting story. My office was in my home until I got on Music Row, and I had put in a business phone. And one day my business phone and my personal phone rang at the same time. And I was trying to figure out which phone should I answer. Could it have been the school for Jonathan or Shelley, or was it something for Take Six? That's not a great feeling, trying to figure out what to do. One time, Jonathan was much younger, my son. I think he might have been like 8. And Spike Lee called the house, and I just kept hearing Jonathan say, I don't know her. I don't know her. And I could hear him. He had picked up the business phone by mistake, I think, thinking it was the home phone. And he kept saying, no, I don't know her. I don't know her. So I came out, and and then I heard him say, oh, you mean my mom? And I picked up the phone. Spike said, who is that? I said, that's my son. I said, what were you asking him? He said, I kept saying, can I speak to Take Six's manager? Can I take Six? I don't know her.
I don't know Take Six manager. I know my mom.
Right.
We'll return after these messages.
What's up, y'all? Quick break from this great episode and conversation to tell you about weamped.com. Now listen, it's all about social media management and making sure that your brand stands out, making sure that you are amped, right? You are attracting clients and lead generation. And that's what weamped.com helps you do. There are 2 packages that help you manage your social media, your Instagram, your Facebook, your LinkedIn, your Twitter, and any other platform that's helping you generate clients, that's helping you develop lead generation and establish and sustain your brand, because that's what it's about. You want to stand out, and quite frankly, you just want to get amped. All right, so go to weamped.com. That's weamped.com to look at those options, get more information. And actually, there's a free checklist that you can download at weamped.com. So make sure you get that for your business so you can stand out today. Weamped.com. Did I say that enough? All right, back to this episode, y'all. Peace.
So when you say word of mouth, I mean, because I'm trying to imagine back in, like, I guess the late 80s,
early 90s.
That must have been truly word of mouth, because there was no internet, there was no SoundCloud, there was,
no Apple, none of that.
I mean, so people were like, what, picking up the phone, and I think Cedric did tell us a story about how Stevie Wonder bought a bunch of copies of the first album and sent them out.
In fact, on his answering machine, are you all too young to remember the answering machine?
Oh no.
On the answering machine, he would say, "These are my new friends. Take 6." So you would hear "Take 6" on the answering machine if you called his house. So it was like that. It was like that. Tommy LaPuma, who was Natalie Cole's producer, brought in Take 6 to do a track with Joe Sample. And it was because he had heard from Bob James, and Bob James heard from, so it just was a continual, have you heard this group, man? Have you heard this group? Have you heard this group? And so that's
cool. So how long were you the manager of Take 6?
5 years.
5 years? Yeah. And you talked about building a team, and your company was called Choice Management, right?
Yeah.
And so talk to us about, like, you know, putting the right people in the right seats on your team and how you were able to move things forward and get things done.
Well, you know, first off, I was such a novice about the business. I didn't know who I needed to do what. But it gave me an opportunity to kind of sit back a second, just listening and just trying to pick up. Remember, I said I had my office in my home. And then I got a call from someone I didn't know that said, I understand you are a new manager. I have an office down here on Music Row. The office was full of furniture. I didn't have to buy anything, and walked into there. And then my first employee, and I have to give him an amazing kudos, is Eddie Hodge Jr. Eddie was 22 when he came to work with me, not for me, with me, because he was just brilliant. And at 25, he brokered, or 24, he might have been 23, he brokered our deal in Japan. I sent him to Japan. I was asked to come to Japan for Take 6 to do a tour. And I sent Eddie over because he just had that mind. I knew when I spoke with him, he was just so energetic, but just so business, just, you know, he came back not only with the tour, but a Mitsubishi deal, TV, radio.
Wow.
Japan. At 23, he brokered that deal on his own. And so it was just me and Eddie in the Take 6 office for about a year, maybe 6 months. Then my next employee was Shauna. I forget her maiden name, but Shauna Randolph. Shauna heard Take 6 at one of the Semelites Festival. I had them come and do a gig before I was managing them. She heard them then and wanted to know who they were, where were they, wanted to get involved. She was I think a junior at TSU when she heard them. And then her senior year came to work for me. And then my next person was Reese Fall. Reese has since passed away last year, but she was my personal PA. And then we had Andy Dixon, who in the music world was known as the road manager's road manager. No one could manage the road like Andy. And you talk about relationships. See, before you see an act, you see their team. Either you're talking to me personally, or you're talking to the road manager, you're talking to the booking agent, you're talking to the personal assistant, you're talking to the receptionist, you're talking to everybody. It's rarely that you talk to the artists themselves. And so when you have a road manager, and Joe Churchwell, when you have a road manager that is very caring, focused, very focused, Andy, very focused, and very caring. And people loved Andy. I mean, people outside of Take 6, when he would show up on stage, a road manager makes sure that the hotels are right. The promoter is talking the right thing. If the deposit has been paid and then the balance is paid before the group walks out on stage, and just has camaraderie, just a great personality. And Andy had that. And to this day, people talk about Andy Dixon. And so that was my team. And that was the team. If I were to give credit, it wasn't just me. It's never just one person. And then it was our attorneys. It was Terry Williams. It was Steve Browyer, Jody Manillo. He was with William Morris before he started his company. And he came to me when I was offered a creative deal with Warner. I was one of the first Black females to be offered a creative deal. That meant that I could produce projects. I could come up with ideas and concepts, and I would bankroll them. That's where Soulful Celebration comes in. That was my first project as an executive producer.
Wow. Wow. That's incredible. So how do you think, so after you that 5-year run with Take Six with in management, what did you stay in music after that?
That's when I was offered the creative deal.
Okay.
With Warner Brothers. I was trying to decide at the time, did I want to stay in the entertainment business? And at one point it was like, no, I don't want to do this anymore. And about the time I said, I'm tired of this. I can't do this. I can't take care of home and take care of office. I was burned out. Really burned out, physically, emotionally, spiritually, just done. And about the time I was walking away, I think it was like it was Cece who came to say, I'm putting a team together with Demetrius Alexander, Irma Bird. Would you be on our team? And at that time I was like, I'm out. And at that time, Norman Miller, who was the executive producer of a project called Young Messiah, taking the Handles Messiah project and making it white contemporary Christian based. And he came to me and said, Gail, would you do, he called it a Black Messiah. And I was like, oh, no, I will not be involved. I couldn't imagine it. I was like, and he said that I'll give you creative control. Well, that kind of, I had produced at Carnegie. I had produced some other projects, live projects with Take Six. So that interests me when he said, you can have creative control. So then that allowed me to pick the producer I wanted to work with. That was Mervyn Warren, who was a former member of Take Six. That allowed us to pick the producers we wanted on this 16 song project. And then the icing on the cake was the Hallelujah Chorus with all kind of folk, from Al Jarreau to Joe Sample to Johnny Mathis, Clifton Davis, Sounds of Blackness, Take Six, Fred Hammond, Well Commission, Felicia Rashad. It just goes on and on when you look at these 86 singers that we arranged to have at the same studio, A&M Studios, where We Are the World. And so Quincy Jones conduct, and pull it up sometime. It's on YouTube.
Oh yeah. I had the album. I think I still got the cassette.
Yes.
Hey, my boy, my homeboy Chris Willis, I think had a track on there too.
Right in front of the line when you look at yes, he did, and yes, he and Liz just sang their hearts out. It was a remarkable time because sitting down with Mervyn, it was, how do we introduce to a whole generation every style, every idiom of Black music?
Right.
I think that it's not so funny now, but back then in the 80s, late 80s, I think it was, we were invited to Quincy Jones' home, and we were sitting talking and saying, whoa, the rap, it'll be around for a little while, and then it's like a phase, it'll leave. And there we were, and we involved Mike E., who was a Christian rap artist on the project, and Busta Rhymes.
He was on there?
Oh yeah, with Boy Squad. So it was a really interesting project. One of the things that I wanted to know was if the classical community thought we were making a mockery. And I really wanted their stamp of approval, and we got it from Placido Domingo. He said if Handel was alive, this is what he would have wanted to hear.
Wow. Yeah, that's amazing. That's amazing. So how was it, working with that many, I want to say like celebrities, but top-notch, performers? Because I asked this question because I saw a documentary about We Are the World. And I remember, I think Quincy Jones said he put a sign over the door that said, "Leave your ego."
Yeah, he did. He did. Yeah. Yeah.
So the difference in recording the Hallelujah Chorus was it was a mixture of Christian artists and secular artists. And what was so amazing is the day before any rehearsals started, Mervyn conducted the rehearsals and Quincy came in to do the live video. What was remarkable was to hear someone say to Andre Crouch, "I've always wanted to work with you, man."
Wow.
This is amazing. So there were, someone else say to Paul Austin, "I've always admired you." Or someone say to Larnell Harris, "Ooh," or to Commission or Sounds of Blackness. So there was such a melting pot. People, see the thing about celebrated people want to be treated as people. And when you start to, I remember sometimes attending church in Nashville and going to my home church and people thinking I had changed because of rubbing shoulders. And all I wanted to do was just be a member of the church.
Yeah,
I didn't really want to talk about where I had been, where I was coming from, what I was doing, because although things are going on around you, yeah, you're rubbing shoulders with folk, it's work. At the end of the day, it's work. If you take it from the standpoint, I had to look at it that I was responsible. I wasn't managing one artist. I was managing six different temperaments, 6 different personalities. We had 2 guys at school. Cedric was at university when this group started. Benny was at university. It was about managing schedules. It was about making sure that they had opportunity to study. Sometimes they were studying backstage before they went on to perform. So it was about managing. And so sometimes it wasn't as glamorous as what people thought, because I was told once by Patrick Raines, he was the manager of Al Jarreau and Marcus Miller. And he said to me, they have to be serious. Are they going to school? Are they going to be? And I had to say, hey, God forbid that Benny or Cedric should lose their voice or ability to perform. But if they did, they will have their education to fall back on, period, in Black America. And that was criticized to a large degree that first year. It was, are you running a mom and pop store? What are you doing? Because we had to turn down some gigs because of schedule.
Right.
We did almost turn down Quincy Jones back on the block because the time he wanted them was the time Vinny was doing tests, in very important tests at university. And when he called, it was kind of like, we can't, sorry, Mr. Jones, but we can't. And Nashville blew up, right? Nashville Warner Brothers blew up when they heard me say, no, I had to tell Mr. Jones we can't. But their assistant called me privately. She said, can we work this out? And I said, well, do you think Mr. Jones could come to Nashville? And she was like, oh, it's his birthday month, March. He's never away from home in March. So I said, but maybe ask and just see. Well, if you don't ask, you don't know, right? And I didn't know enough to not ask. So 4 hours later, the call came back we're coming to Nashville. And he came to Nashville to record the Brazilian love song that everyone loves, Sarah Vaughan. And we threw him a birthday party at Jim Ed's house so that he.
Wow.
Yes. But, you know, sometimes you have to think, particularly as an entrepreneur, right? Bill and Eddie, you got to think out of the box.
Right.
There's nothing wrong with being told no, but suppose they say yes.
Right.
You know, you have to think that way. In anything, I think anything, you have to be willing to take a risk.
I think you touched on something that will be really beneficial to entrepreneurs or people that want to be entrepreneurs. You talked about managing, you know, the different personalities of Take Six. You know, you had 6 different guys. You had some that are in school. Then you also had the business end where you're trying to, you know, secure deals, book shows, yada yada yada. And my takeaway is, well, not you particularly, but I guess, you know, maybe advancing the show.
Right. I had to look at the contracts.
Right. Advancing and things like that. And what people, I guess, need to realize is that being an entrepreneur and to do it on a high level, it's not an 8 to 5. It's not a 9 to 6. This is a 24-hour, you know, continuous type of job, no matter what industry you are. If you're looking to get to that high level where you're rubbing shoulders with the Quincy Joneses and Stevie Wonders, and then dealing with, you know, personnel, this is an ongoing thing. There's no rest. Like, to get to where you need to be, you have to keep grinding, and that's what I'm hearing.
Well, I think what I would like to say is you have to remember, Take Six loved to sing when they were a young group at Oakwood. That was their dream. That was not my dream.
Yeah.
I went to school to study behavioral science and psychology, not music. So to get to a high level, I felt like I was thrust into this. And when I say I felt like I was thrust, this was really something God asked me to do. And I didn't even realize it until I was kind of out of it, looking back and realizing that this was so providential. This was not my dream or my passion. You know, you're given an opportunity. I didn't think of myself as one day owning my own company. I'm a New Yorker. I'm a Bronx girl, raised in Mount Vernon. I wanted to be a missionary. That's where, I mean, you know, it's being answered now, being here in Africa now. But at that time, God just had a different path. And so what I would like to say to entrepreneurs is don't be so stuck in what you think is your path. There are so many gifts and talents that we all have. And sometimes we pigeonhole ourselves, not that the world does, but that we do. We pigeonhole ourselves. And sometimes we have to, yes, you have to be passionate. Yes, you have to be, but integrity is real important, Bill and Eddie. Integrity, your word is your bond. If you're gonna, you know, there's not enough integrity, I think, in many businesses, but as a young entrepreneur, it's really important for there to be some level of trust because your word is good. Your word is good. Integrity is crucial. Professionalism is crucial. Everyone is not your boy. You know.
Everybody's not your auntie, Eddie.
Yeah, you're right. You're right.
Boundaries, you know, there has to be professional boundary settings, so that you can get the work done.
Oh, this is great. These are great insights for me. Okay, and I'm sure for other entrepreneurs too. I want to talk about how you made the transition, or what that journey looked like, going from, you know, manager to the creative space, and now international speaker and coach. And I'm assuming, as you kind of just mentioned, you already had this vision for yourself, for your life, the purpose of your life.
But how did it happen?
Well, I was minding my business in Nashville and got a call from a expatriate of South Africa named Malcolm du Plessis. He was a huge Soulful Celebration fan. And he wanted me to come to South Africa. And he said, I would like for you to do what you did on the Soulful Celebration project. I would like for you to do that for us in South Africa. And I turned it down, the invitation 3 times.
Wow.
And I want to bless Shauna Randolph's heart because she didn't listen to me when I said, if he ever calls again, Malcolm du Plessis, please just be kind, but get rid of him. I'm not interested in going to South Africa for anything. You know, you're reading the news and, you know, and you, in your own mind, it's like, no, I'm already involved in civil rights over here. Why would I travel all be involved in it? So it's just interesting.
Was that around the time when Mandela was becoming president, or?
He wasn't even, that was 92, 93. He wasn't even president yet. So
okay. Wow. Okay.
I did something in Nashville called the Choice Awards, and we actually did it at Tennessee Performing Arts Center. We actually did it the day that Mandela was released. We didn't know he was going to be released. But we had Yolanda King on the program, and she came to me and said, Nelson Mandela was released today. I was like, wow, for the first time. But Malcolm called. Shauna didn't listen to me. He asked her, I was in LA for meetings. He asked her, where was I in LA? Because he was also in that part. She gave him the address. And I was actually with friends. I had been in the hotel, done my meeting at Warner Brothers, got in the car. I'd always go to Laguna Beach after a meeting and then go to my friends and stay. And one Saturday night, there was this knock on the door. I was at my friend Cliff and Stephanie's home, and Cliff came and he said, there's a gentleman out here. I was like, not for me. He said, no, he asked for Gail Hamilton. I was like, it can't be. No one knows I'm here.
This is before cell phones.
GPS, before GPS.
We didn't have cell phones back then. And when I got to the door, there was Malcolm du Plessis, and I was like, how did you find me? He said, no, Shauna told me. Well, I got on the phone. I was so upset with Shauna. But God just wiped out my don't. And Malcolm invited me to come to South Africa and to create a project. And I really tried, you know, I don't know anything about South African music. I know Hugh Masekela, Grazing in the Grass. That's all I know. I know Mary Makeba, and as an activist, we've worked with Ladysmith Black Mambazo as Take 6. But other than that, I can't produce a project. I don't know the music. And he wouldn't accept no. He wouldn't accept no. So I accepted an invitation to go over, met South African musicians, one of those being my husband now. Victor Masondo is one of the most celebrated artists here in South Africa, celebrated artist, bassist, producer, arranger. He's the only African that has a signature deal with Yamaha, or the first African to be given. So, you know, I met him and he was highly recommended to be our producer. We did realize that we were going to have someone who knew South African music, but had an appreciation for Black American music. And he had worked with some of the tops. He was Dizzy Gillespie's music director and Miriam Makeba's music director in '92, when Soulful Celebration was being brought to the world. So Shauna did good. Shauna did good.
She was led.
And that was my second project, or it was in between. I did this project called Sisters.
Sisters, yes.
And that was a project of most of the female Christian artists, the Yolanda Adams, the CeCe Winans, the Vicki Winans at that time.
Sidebar.
I'm sorry.
Sidebar. I'm trying to find a song off that particular album. I can't find it anywhere, so maybe we need to connect afterwards, and you can give me that track. It was the one with Yolanda Adams and Crystal Lewis. But that's just a sidebar.
I'm not sure. I suppose we should just put it on YouTube, because Yolanda ended up doing it on her
by
own.
herself. Yeah.
Past. What's interesting about that song, Eddie, is I got here to South Africa, became very, very ill, ended up in hospital for 15 days. I had 8 inches of my intestines removed. It was gangrene. Wow. The interesting thing about what you're talking about, that particular song, is my partner on that project, Janice Chafee. Everybody was trying to cheer me up, and she called the day after my surgery, and I really couldn't speak, and I had tubes everywhere. And we were just picking songs for the project, and the young gentleman, I forget the songwriter, but he just said in the demo, it was just the music, it wasn't even the lyrics. And she said, Janice said, Gail, I want you to listen to this melody. She said the lyrics, the title is This Too Shall Pass. And it may have been 3 or 4 days after that, I called the States and I said, I don't care what the lyrics are, this song has to be on the project. And I wanted Crystal. I really wanted Crystal Lewis. I'm a big fan. I'm a big fan of both of them, Yolanda and Crystal. But that song was chosen while I was in South Africa.
Wow.
Yeah. So you're getting a lot of gems today.
Hey.
Yeah. Wow, that's deep. So what type of audiences are you speaking to now when you have speaking engagements, and what are some of the subject matters that you're talking about?
We are GBV, gender-based violence, is a big topic for me to speak about for a few reasons. I was a child of GBV. I grew up in a gender-based violent home. And so women who are emotionally and physically and sexually abused, women and children, that's a very important issue for me. And I live in a country right now where I think we are the first in the world of crimes against women, the numbers. Maybe I think America's PR is better.
Yeah.
So we have the same issues in America. We have the same issues on the continent. We have the same issues all around the world that affect women and children. We're looking at Afghanistan right now, right? And the women and children there, I mean, it's heartbreaking to see mothers give away infants to just say, please take them because we know we're going to be abused here.
Wow.
That and my practice primarily is with professional women who are broken and wounded. I know what it's like to hide behind a title. I know what it's like to pretend. And so we work very closely with celebrated women, so to speak, who will not necessarily speak out about what they're doing or what's happening in their lives because they're visible and they don't want anyone to know. It gives me an opportunity to give back. I think I missed, even in my own parenting, I miss parenting well just because of the demands of my life at that time. There was so much demand, and you can't do everything well. Someone else would hear me and say, what is she talking about? It's like, well, you can't. You've got to kind of zero in on what's really important.
Yeah.
I was fortunate enough when my children were really, really little make the decision to stay home. And I think Take 6 entered our lives. Jonathan was about 8 or 9. And life just was never the same after that. And I think you have to sit down and kind of, there's even a scripture that says that if you're going to build something, count the cost. You wouldn't build a house without checking how much the bricks cost, how much well, it's the same thing with your career. You really got to count, if you're going to have children, you got to count that cost. How do they factor into your life? So as entrepreneurs, yes, you have to burn that oil, but your family shouldn't have to suffer because you're burning oil. You got to create that balance, because really God is really, you know, he's given us these gifts, he's given us these talents, but he's also given us wisdom. And it's asked us to use wisdom. Some of us are so anxious to be successful that we forget that our first mission field is our home. Our first success story is our home. It really is. And I wish I knew then what I know now. So, Eddie, I'm hoping to have a mercy in my life as well, to be a grandparent. I think God gives us grandchildren because he knew we messed up. So it's an opportunity. No, I'm really serious. It's an opportunity to be a grandparent, to do it better.
Yeah. Well, I heard a minister say once, there are no perfect parents, you know, and but I love what you said. Your first success story should come from your home, you know, because you like in this world, we see people who are successful in their careers or in business, but, you know, they've been in several marriages, or they have certain, you know, personal issues going on, and they've made that sacrifice, like you said. So we have to use that wisdom to make good decisions, you know, to move forward.
It's so important, I think. Like I said, I wish I knew then what I know now is if you're a believing Christian, it's just really important to get your blueprint, go back to God and just say, you gave me this ability. You decided to package me this way.
Right.
And then say why, as opposed to I know what why. Why?
Yeah.
My grandfather, I love my grandfather. He was the first Black postal worker to have his own route in New York City. And he used to take me on a date between the ages of 12 and 17. He would take me to the Radio City Music Hall Christmas show. Every Christmas, I was his date, just me and him. After the show at Radio City Music Hall, we would go to Coney Island just for French fries. Those were the best French fries and a Nathan's hot dog. That was it. When I got a little older, like 16, 17, we'd go to this restaurant right across the street from Radio City called Wolf's. That was the best food. And when I was producing this show at Radio City Music Hall with Take 6, I went backstage where the Rockettes used to come out. My grandfather had already passed by then. But I thought, what would he have thought? I would have been able to bring him inside, sit backstage, and just hang out, you know? God didn't announce when I was 17 that in year so-and-so you'll be here producing a show. Had God announced that, I would have been like, oh, no. At 17, no, I'm going to Peru. I'm going to go be a missionary. So there are things that God wants to do in our lives, but sometimes we have it so figured out, we think, that we don't allow him the privilege of leading us. And I'm here to tell you, he can surprise the socks off of you. He has plans and dreams for us far beyond what we could ever imagine, ever. No one could have told me 25 years ago I would be living in South Africa. Nobody. There was no way I could have believed that, or 30 years ago. So we have to be careful as entrepreneurs, have a dream, but know that dream didn't come just from you. Mm-hmm. Go back to who manufactured the dream.
Let me ask you this though. So I remember you saying that when you were working with Take Six, you guys were in an apartment and you mapped out a 5-year plan, right?
They were in an apartment.
Yeah. I understand.
No.
Like, we were all in an apartment. No, I know what you mean. So my question is, where do you find that balance, so to speak, between, hey, we're going to map out this vision that we have or set some goals for ourselves, and also let God lead us? Are you kind of playing it by ear? You have focus and structure to your daily or your monthly activity toward those goals, but you're also listening to God. Like, how do you determine, do I listen to myself or am I looking for another sign,
I did this Take Six interview a month ago, and I was saying that when the contracts used to land on my desk from William Morris, mm-hmm. I used to pray over them, literally, like, what should mm-hmm. we be doing? Yeah. And then things got so busy, I was rarely looking at anything. And I could tell the difference. I think what we do is, Proverbs is really clear, have a plan, but be willing to surrender that plan. I think what happens, or what has happened in my life, there's a scripture that says, watch and pray. It's really important. There was a time where Moses was standing there getting ready to cross the Red Sea, but he was doing all this praying, and God was like, it's time to go. And so you have to watch. You have to watch the circumstances. You have to watch things that are opening, providing. You have to be in the wisdom of great counselors. Don't be sitting out here trying to do everything by yourself. Mentors. I want to speak to young entrepreneurs, but I also want to speak to people who, like yourself. It's going to be really important that you mentor someone behind you, someone who has the same dream. And it's okay to not be intimidated by young talent. I'm thinking like, had I been intimidated by Eddie Hodge, he was 22, 23, and he had it going on. He had that mind. To shut him down and just say, no, you just need to answer the phone, I would have paid dearly for that. So the idea of put yourself in the room with counselors who are wise, who are caring, who also have integrity. Find a mentor that you can see from a distance their lives, meaning they're not perfect in what they do, but they're excellent in their living. You have to make time to speak with God. You have to. It's a must. Whether that's morning or evening, this running out the door, bless me, God, and you really have to sit down and lay out the plan and say, this is what I think, Lord, but what do you think? This is my desire. My husband and I were talking about that today, and I was saying, every time I say something, you say, but what does God say? And I was like, can we just one time just say out? But he's really saying what I'm saying to you. You've got to go back. You've got to have that relationship with God, or we're wasting time. We're losing money. When you're out there on your own, just doing your thing, it doesn't succeed nearly as well as it does when God is in control. And you can tell, if you have a relationship, you can tell when God is in it. Are there bumps along the way? Yes. Yes, there are. It wasn't smooth sailing with Take Six. It wasn't smooth. Every tour was wonderful. Every tour made money. Every album sold to platinum. But when you are passionate, one of the things that Take Six had and has passion for what they do. you know, some of the members in the group would do it whether they were paid or not. Heart. It's called heart. It's called passion. If you don't have passion, leave it alone. Don't be trying to do it because someone else is doing it. Go do what you have a dream and passion for. You know, it's really interesting to be in the business when I was in it, and people would come and we would get all kind of demo tapes, and we get people who would just show up and say, I want to sing. I got to sing. And they couldn't sing. They didn't have the vocal quality.
Yeah.
And I couldn't say to them, okay, well, no, I had to say, but are you a songwriter? Because really, if it's finances you're looking for, it's not in sales of albums, it's in songwriting. You only have to write one White Christmas, and you'll be you and your children will live forever off of the royalties of that one song. You know, you don't want to shoot people down, but you don't also want to mislead them. If you can't sing, you can't sing. But you have a passion for the music business, let's find something that you can do. So I think it is a balance act. But when you have a relationship with God, He opens doors and He shuts doors. And we have to be willing to recognize both. You know, God's no is a yes at the end of the day. But He can say no.
Yeah.
He can say no.
Hey, we can really drop the mic right there, but I got a couple more questions. So my first question is, if you had the technology that exists today, back when you started working with Take 6, and throughout your management there, your creative directing pursuits, and even now, I mean, if you had the technology like YouTube and email and even WhatsApp or whatever forms of technology that enable us to communicate super quick and do virtual things, what do you think would have been the difference in terms of the outcome of or the roadmap for your career?
I don't think it would have been as interesting. I don't think the organization called WEIR, I don't even know if we have WEIR anymore. It was Warner Electra Asylum. It was a distribution arm. And Take 6, because they were a cappella and didn't need a band, we would go to the distribution arms around the country and surprise the staff. Nobody, no celebrities ever came to see the staff that actually put the records in the record store. And a staff member of WEIR could decide, I'm gonna put Whitney Houston's album in the front, I'm gonna put it in the back. If you're nice to people, and we used to say that all the time, the janitor, the security guard that opens the stage door, be nice to the woman who brings in the catering, be nice to everyone, because they go and talk about, I met a jerk or I met a nice person. You know what I mean? I just think the technology is wonderful. It's wonderful to have today. But I don't know, I think for your generation, it's pretty interesting. But for me, I don't know that the rubbing of shoulders would have been the same. You know? I remember my first fax. I remember when it came out of the fax machine, because we got the fax. I remember my first computer, it was huge. No, it was huge. Even the cell phone was like this. It was like a brick. It was so big. And I didn't get a cell phone till I came to South Africa. It was just too, I was like, I don't want to be called 24/7. In fact, I used to tell the guys, if it's a death, think about calling me. But if it isn't, you cannot call my house after 10 o'clock, period. So, a cell phone with, it's all access all the time. Even when you turn it off, you're wondering, I wonder if I missed a call. So For my age, there were benefits with FedEx. Remember FedEx? I was calling FedEx fax, before I could figure it out. But it was FedEx and fax. All of that came in the 90s, before. So progression is great. It's wonderful. I love seeing what you guys are doing. I love it. I love podcasts. I think it's, wonderful, magnificent. But there is that missing sometimes. It's collaborating flesh to flesh.
Yeah, absolutely.
And rest. I don't think your generation is resting enough because you're on all the
Yeah. No, that's a great point. I actually just listened to another podcast, and the host had a guest on. He was a doctor, but the whole subject matter was how to sleep and the importance of rest and sleep. And I consider myself an athlete. I tell my son I'm an athlete. He starts laughing, but I run marathons. So for me, I know how important rest is, because right before a race or right before I do a long run, I don't run the day before, and sometimes 2 days before, and I can tell the difference. Trust me, when I go out and I got to run 20 miles, I can tell the difference if I did not get my rest in. So I get it. And I agree. We need to value rest more. So what's next for you? I know we're I don't know if we're post-COVID yet or what's happening, but we went through this COVID-19, this worldwide pandemic, and I'm sure that impacted, some engagements or your business. But what's coming up next? What can we expect to see from you as it relates to you as a coach and a speaker?
Well, it's interesting because it is still a lot of speaking, but next year is the 30th anniversary of the recording of the Hallelujah Chorus at the A&M Studios. And people were asking me, so are we bringing everybody back together again? And are we gonna, do the We Are the World? And I was like, not me. We're in our 50s, 60s, 70s, Quincy's in his 80s. There's no way we're going to do that. But, being so far away from home, particularly last year watching George Floyd and all, I was in LA. The day after we recorded the Hallelujah Chorus, the Rodney King verdict came out, where all 4 policemen were found not guilty. And LA went up in smoke. I was there. I was stuck in LA for 3 days because LAX was shut down. Rodney King was our George Floyd. And when you think about it, 30 years later, nothing has changed. So we're having a conversation, April 28th, the act, 30 years to the exact date, 1992 to 2022. We're having a conversation in Brooklyn, New York, and we're talking to social justice minds and spiritually led minds. We're doing this at A.R. Bernard. You should Google him, at his church. And we have guests like Jim Ed Norman, Felicia Rashad, Alvin Chia, Mark Kibble, a few other people who were part of the chorus, but also other people who, Jim Ed wasn't part of the chorus, but he green-lighted project to happen. Marion Wright Edelman, Otis Moss. We're gonna have a conversation about what's the call to action. Yeah. The midterms are 2022, and in Black America, we're generally geeked for the presidential elections. But if you don't know who your police chief is, if you don't know who your senator are or your congressmen are, that's the midterms. Those are very important. So this conversation, this call to action is vote in 2022, vote. And to continue to vote up until we get to the presidential election. When you're sitting down and culture is being canceled and slavery is being taken out of the school books, or the idea and voting rights for Black Americans, brown Americans is being threatened, we need a call to order. And so that's my project for next year, is a combination of what did we do 30 years from the 28th of 2022, we recorded the Hallelujah Chorus, and it was a celebratory time. But that celebration was really, really like a kick in the stomach the very next day. Yeah. When we realized that these 4 policemen were let go. But that's not new.
Yeah.
30 years later, it's not new. So that's what's going on. And that's going to take a while. We've started and it's coming together nicely, but it's supposed to be a TV series. So that's where we are.
Nice. Nice. Well, I'm sure we'll hear about it, but please keep us posted on details, especially up in New York. My sister lives in New York. My sister's a Broadway actress, so she got a spot in New York, and I love going there and hanging out. So if you're going to be you said it's in Brooklyn? You guys going to get together in Brooklyn? Yeah, that's pretty cool. Well, Eddie, did you have anything else, man, before we close out, brother?
Oh man, I mean, I'm good right now.
hey, listen, Aunt Gail dropped so many gems and wisdom on this podcast, this episode. I think I got to go back and listen to it because I was sitting here mad at myself that I didn't have pen and paper, but we did record it. Okay, so I'll be able to go back, but I can tell that you are an inspirational speaker for sure. And just the wisdom that came forth was very much appreciated and applicable, not only to entrepreneurs, but I think anybody in the professional arena. So appreciate your time. And I also want to thank our sponsors who make this podcast possible and who are vendors of our company, My Tech Partners. So especially want to shout out Comcast Business, 8x8 voice over IP service, Your 6 ICS cybersecurity, and Big Leaf Network, and Wow Cable. So that's 6 sponsors who actually sponsored our last event and are sponsors for the podcast for this particular quarter. So if you're watching this on YouTube, guys, make sure you subscribe to the channel. Leave some thoughts or comments about what we talked about, and just chime in and let us know what you thought about this conversation as well. Again, thank you, Aunt Gail. Appreciate you.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. Love you. Thank you, Bill. All of God's blessings. May you grow from strength to strength, but remember who's in charge.
All right.
God bless you guys.
God bless you. Thank you.